We need to talk as a brand new Transit teaser was just discovered, not only further teasing Transit's return in Black Ops 7 Zombies, but also giving us physical locations of areas within the Transit map in Black Ops 7, leading to further details of playable areas and locations on the Transit map. This is all extremely exciting, and I'm going to waste no further time diving straight into this, but I'd love to know your thoughts down below in the comment section about what you think about Transit, more likely than not being the launch map for Black Ops 7 Zombies, and if you were excited by that idea. If you are, then let me know by clicking the thumbs up button below. It's absolutely free, lets me know you're excited, as this was a very unexpected teaser ahead of what we already got from the ending of the Reckoning's Easter egg. Coming straight into things, this teaser isn't a typical teaser. It's not a Treyarch tweet or anything like that, but an actual intel that is discoverable within the Reckoning map. This intel is an audio log from the perspective of Dr Pericles Panos, who we've learned throughout Black Ops 6 Zombies was trapped within the Dark Aether during Liberty Falls and was befriended by a mystery shadowy figure who enlists Panos to be his shadowy benefactor. This particular teaser describes a moment where Panos realizes that he wasn't dreaming but was actually experiencing himself within Transit inside of the Dark Aether. Let me play you that audio log now, and afterwards we'll break it down to discuss exactly how and why this is a Transit teaser, as well as the playable areas Panos mentions.
The voice spoke to me again. The great voice from beyond. My friend. It guided me through a dream state more lucid than any I have ever known. It was more than transcendental. It was transformative. I saw through the mist and fog. My gaze did not linger upon the foul wretches that wandered in search of prey. I looked upon the sprawling landscape beyond. Though this place was shrouded by darkness and tainted by trauma, I saw lights. I saw brightness. From the fields I glimpsed a farmhouse, a sunken town, rustic and ravaged by age, a cabin overlooking the inky black water of a lake, and a pyramid somehow floating in the distance. A single tower still stood tall. Though I was alone, I knew no fear as I walked across this unfamiliar realm. When I felt a yawning hunger deep in my belly, the voice guided me towards a place of nourishment. My eyes feasted upon its saturated colors, and my appetite was swiftly sated. My thirst was soon quenched. I knew for sure this was so much more than a mere dream when I read the sign. My friend confidently issued a solemn promise. This land that once was will be restored, as will I.
Let's break down his audio log piece by piece so we can piece together the different transit areas. So the very first thing he mentions is that he saw through the mist and fog. And of course, Transit is notorious having mist and fog in between each of its main areas. He also mentions that his gaze did not linger upon the foul wretches that wandered in search of prey. Now that is clearly a reference to the denizens that are hiding within the fog and mist between each area of Transit, with Panos literally describing them as wandering through the mist and fog in search of prey. The denizens only attack the players if they are within the mist and fog. So that seemingly confirms that denizens might be returning in Black Ops 7's Transit. Shortly after, he mentions that though this place was shrouded by darkness and tainted by trauma, he saw light. And this visual description of this place shrouded by darkness, that visual description matches the Black Ops 7 Zombies teaser we got at the end of the trailer perfectly, where this area is clearly shrouded in darkness, but at the end of it we see two bright lights which are likely to be the headlights of the Transit bus. And in the same sentence, he mentions that though this place was shrouded by darkness and tainted by trauma, he saw lights, and that he saw brightness, and that very well could have been a reference to the headlights from the bus. Moments later, he mentions from the fields he glimpsed at a farmhouse, and that is exactly what we can tell from the Black Ops 7 trailer teaser, where we do see a farmhouse. with the most likely chance of this actually being the farm area from Transit. He then references a sunken town, rustic and ravaged by age, and what could that be referring to? Well, of course, the town area from Transit's town. He then mentions a cabin overlooking the inky black water of a lake, and in Transit, there of course was a cabin between the power area and the town where you could grab yourself the Bowie knife, and it was a tiny little cabin just out on its own. However, this time he says it's overlooking the inky black water of a lake, and this is something that we previously didn't see on Transit, meaning that there could be some brand new areas of Transit or alterations to the map from what we saw in the original, where this will now have a lake containing inky black water. But a very interesting note is that he mentions that he saw a pyramid somehow floating. Now, what he's likely referring to is what we previously saw in the final map of Vanguard Zombies, where within the corrupted lands, which is in the Dark Aether, we can see multiple pyramids that are floating above in the sky. Among these floating pyramids is an ancient monolith of insurmountable power that has existed since the dawn of time within the Dark Aether, known as the Construct, with the Construct occasionally granting its power to select chosen few, granting them the title of Archon. This was very important towards the ending of Vanguard Zombies, where Fortifex was granted the power by the Construct to become the Archon. Whilst what I think Panos is referring to here is these floating monoliths that we saw in the corrupted lands and not the Construct itself, Construct has not yet been mentioned at all within the Dark Aether since Vanguard, so it wouldn't surprise me if it could potentially be here as well. With the pyramid floating, this absolutely confirms that Transit is set within the Dark Aether, because the floating pyramids from the corrupted lands are also whilst in the Dark Aether. It then says in the distance a single tower still stood tall, and this is more likely than not referring to the pylon, which is situated within the cornfields of Transit, which is responsible for the completion of the main Easter egg quest in Transit, where depending on what side you went with, powered up the pylon with a specific color energy going through it, tied to what side you completed the quest on. Panos then says that whilst he was alone, he knew no fear as he walked across this unfamiliar realm. And when Panos felt a yawning hunger deep in his belly, the voice guided him towards a place of nourishment. And where could that place be? Of course, the diner area from Transit. It says his eyes feasted upon its saturated colors and his appetite was swiftly sated. His thirst was soon quenched, and he knew for sure that this was so much more than a mere dream when he read the sign. Now, there are quite a few signs around the Transit map, but the most iconic is the diner sign with some of the letters no longer illuminated, which spells the words "now die." He ends this by saying that his friend confidently issued a solemn promise: the land that once was will be restored, as will Panos. Now, we don't necessarily know exactly what he means by restoring this land, but we know 100% that we'll be on Transit and we will be with that brand new version of the original characters. Now, what I find interesting is due to the leak of the original characters returning so long ago, being 100% genuine, we might need to pay attention to the other details within that leak. Where according to the same sources who confirmed the return of those characters, said that the zombie storyline will evolve around a new enemy character who wants to absorb the Dark Aether essence of the original 4 characters and bring back the old multiverse. So when we hear these words of restoring this land to what it once was, it very likely could mean that this shadowy character wants to bring Transit back to the old multiverse, as well as restoring all of what's been in the Dark Aether from the old universe in order to bring that old multiverse back, where we'll be able to play on all of those maps as they will exist again, but no longer in the Dark Aether, but in the Ether? I feel Triarch have a lot of explaining to do when it comes to making this story make sense. But on top of that, the leaks also said that the main map was Transit inspired, with some sort of travel system to navigate around the map. All signs point to Transit, but we're just gonna have to wait and see. I'd love to know your thoughts down below about these Transit POI teasers inside of Black Ops 7 in the comments. Make sure you don't miss out on any teasers like this for Black Ops 7, as well as official news. Be sure to subscribe. But why not check out this video on your screen right here from The Reckoning? I think you're going to love it.